Hi everyone, it's me again, but don't fast forward just yet. The Triple E team is expanding and we are hiring. We're looking for creative nonfiction writers and editors for our audio documentary programs. We're also looking for freelance voiceover actors, a program producer for our entertainment programs, and a videographer and social media content manager. If you're interested in being part of our team, click the link below to answer a few questions and submit your resume. Thank you, and I promise you'll enjoy today's episode.
On the night of June 9th, 2020, Dubai police set out on a nighttime raid.
The raid was part of a special operation codenamed Operation Fox Hunt 2. The police were heading to 6 locations to arrest 12 people suspected to be cyber criminals.
One of the locations was the Palazzo Versace Hotel, an expensive high-end hotel at the Jeddah waterfront. A room there would normally go for at least $300 a night.
The police go up to the room, enter quickly, and right away they handcuff everyone in sight. They can't risk anyone destroying evidence.
At the end of the raids that night, Dubai police seized the equivalent of $40 million in cash, 21 personal computers,
47 smartphones, 15 flash drives,
and 5 hard disks, 13 luxury cars, and they arrest 12 men, one of whom goes by the name
Hushpuppi. Hushpuppi was an Instagram influencer.
Ray Hushpuppi was known as one of the richest Nigerian big boys. From buying expensive Gucci wares to flaunting the most expensive cars, Hushpuppi lived every Nigerian kid's dream of having.
But before he became the Instagram influencer we know as Hushpuppi, he was and legally still is Ramon Olorunwa Abbas, born in 1982 in Lagos. At the time of his arrest, he was 37 years old.
And the raid and his arrest in Dubai were just the beginning of his problems, because at that moment and nearly 12,000 kilometers away, an FBI agent in Chicago was getting ready to file a case against Hushpuppi.
Special Agent Andrew John Innocenti was going to make sure that Hushpuppi would spend his 38th birthday and maybe even more birthdays in prison.
On June 25th, about 2 weeks after Hushpuppi's arrest in Dubai, Agent Innocenti files a complaint on behalf of the US government against Hushpuppi, and the court issues an arrest warrant for him.
About 1 week later, on July 3rd, Hushpuppi is in front of a judge in Chicago, and he's told that he will be in the custody of the US Marshal.
Basically, he was going to be held in jail while his case is being heard.
Now, Agent Innocenti was undoubtedly excited because the case he has been working on for months is coming together nicely. With Hushpuppi's arrest, the agent will get access to even more information from Hushpuppi's phone, his computers, and other electronic assets.
And the information Agent Innocenti soon discovers ends up implicating many other people, including a highly decorated Nigerian police officer.
From Triple E Media, I'm Rahmat Muhammad, and this is The Backstory. Nigerian media has been buzzing over the past few weeks, not so much about the Hushpuppi arrest. That's old news. But about the FBI's warrant of arrest for Deputy Commissioner of Police Abba Kyari, a highly decorated detective in the Nigeria Police Force Intelligence Response Team. He is being implicated in a case that the US FBI has been building for months against Raymond Abbas, aka Hushpuppi. And to understand the connection, we need to take you back in time to try to piece together what happened and who knew what and when they knew it. For this episode, we relied primarily on publicly available court records filed on behalf of the US government. Now, the only way to fully balance this story is to have access to reports or records filed by the Nigerian police as they investigate the allegations. However, without access to that information, the story that you are about to hear is going to reflect only the information that the US has made public. And one more thing, you may want to watch the YouTube video that goes with this episode. We include some visuals in this video that may make this episode easier to follow.
This whole case has been like watching dominoes fall. Each time the FBI makes an arrest, they find more leads. And those leads open new leads. But the question I have is, how many dominoes are there? And is there one master domino that if they find that one and they topple that one, the whole chain falls?
Well, to understand the fall, or the seeming fall of the decorated police officer, Abba Kyari, we need to start with how the Hushpuppi domino fell. We have to take you back to 2019.
2019 was an especially busy and lucrative year for cybercriminals, and Hushpuppi definitely got his share of the action that year.
On the 16th of January, Hushpuppi gets a message from someone. The documents just refer to this person as co-conspirator 1, or sometimes unindicted co-conspirator 1. So this co-conspirator 1, they asked Hushpuppi to give them 2 European bank accounts that could receive 5 million euros.
Apparently, there's this big hit, a cyber heist, that's being planned to take place on the 12th of February. Now, obviously, if you're stealing money, you have to put it somewhere.
Back in the old days, when robbery was analog, you take the money, you put it in bags and dump the bags in the back of a getaway van. But with cyber heist, you can't do that.
With cyber heists, you need to move the money from one bank account and drop it in another bank account, or these days, into cryptocurrency. And from what we can tell, Hushpuppi and his team specialized in having bank accounts where these drops happen.
So, Hushpuppi, he sends this co-conspirator 1 information for a Romanian bank account. Then on Sunday, the 10th of February, this is now 2 days before the big hit, co-conspirator 1 again asked Hushpuppi if he wanted to add more accounts or stick to just the Romanian one that he gave earlier. And the next day, Monday the 11th, Hushpuppi sent him information for a bank account in Bulgaria.
On Tuesday the 12th, co-conspirator 1 contacts Hushpuppi again and tells him that the wire is complete and that Hushpuppi should have received 500,000 euros.
It's now Wednesday, the 13th of February, and bankers at the Bank of Valletta, one of the oldest and largest banks in Malta, show up to work early in the morning. They are reconciling the international transfers from the day before, when they noticed that the numbers were just not adding up.
Within hours, the entire bank shuts down. They shut down everything. All their branches, their ATMs, mobile banking, and even email services. They take their website offline. The bank had just discovered that 13 million euros were missing, vanished overnight into foreign bank accounts.
Now, the bank manages to block payments that were made to 4 countries, the US, UK, Czech Republic, and Hong Kong.
That same day, Hushpuppi and co-conspirator 1 communicate again. Hushpuppi sends him screenshots showing that the funds had not arrived in the Romanian bank accounts. Co-conspirator 1 tells Hushpuppi that the bank had noticed and pressed a recall on it.
We don't know if any of the funds made it to the Bulgarian account, but either way, on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, and 2 days after the heist, Hushpuppi posts a picture of himself standing in front of a Bentley. And on the caption he wrote, "Bought myself a new Bentley Bentiaga for Valentine's, the best way to celebrate the season of love."
Now, prior to that particular picture, Hushpuppi had been entertaining his Instagram followers for years with pictures of him in expensive shoes, clothing, and he's just living the extravagant life. There's even a video of him being fed a 24-karat gold steak. This was over-the-top stuff that Instagram followers drool over. Some pictures even show him standing next to supercars, But from what we could see, he had never claimed to own any of the cars he's been pictured with, until this one that appeared on the 14th of February, 2 days after the Bank of Valletta heist.
But the Bank of Valletta heist, as exciting as that was, is not the reason why Hushpuppi is in jail in the United States. And it's not the reason why there's a warrant out for the arrest of a highly decorated Nigerian police officer. For that backstory, we have to fast forward to October 2019. And we also have to jump about 600 kilometers west from Dubai to Qatar.
Around October 1st, 2019, a business person from Qatar, we don't have the name for this person, so we'll refer to them as Qatari business person. Now, this Qatari business person wants to build an international school in Qatar, and they need funding. They need $15 million for the project. So this Qatari business person hires a financial advisor.
And this financial advisor starts to search for a loan, and somehow they get connected to co-conspirator 1. Apparently, the world of money is a small world.
Co-conspirator 1 connects the financial advisor to a company in Kenya called Westload Financial Solutions, which is either owned or operated by a guy named Abdurrahman Juma.
The financial advisor is excited because after a few weeks of back and forth over virtual meetings, it seems like Westload Financial Solutions will invest $15 million in the international school. So on November 12th, the Qatari business person and the financial advisor, they fly out to Kenya to meet Juma.
In Kenya, they sign a contract with Westload, and basically the contract says Westload will fund the $15 million, but the client, the Qatari business person, is responsible for all these fees that have to be paid in advance. Now, this is your classic advance fee fraud. We used to do these back in the 90s, but back then the advance fees were a couple of $100, maybe a couple of $1,000.
But these guys are in the big league. The fees that they ask the Qatari to pay include a consultancy fee of $225,000 and a fee of over $160,000 for legal and initial engagement fees.
But the Qatari is probably thinking that this is actually cheap. Pay $400,000 to get $15 million. I mean, who wouldn't sign up for that?
And that's what they did. They signed the contract, and between November 13th and 14th, the Qatari business person wired $164,450 to Juma through a Kenyan law firm called Okach and Partners.
Now, clearly this whole setup was a scam, and Juma could have just ghosted the Qatari business person after that first payout, but his instincts probably told him that he would get even more from the Qatari business person.
So on the 1st of December 2019, Juma sends the Qatari business person confirmation of a wire transfer. Obviously it's forged, but it shows that $15 million had been transferred from a Barclays bank in the UK to the Qatari's bank in Qatar.
Of course, the Qatari business person checks the bank and sees that there is no money. When they tell Juma that the transfer didn't happen, Juma tells them they actually need to pay another fee of $150,000 to release the money. And between December 6th and 7th, the Qatari business person wires $150,000 to Okach and Partners.
Now, Juma should have definitely just ghosted the Qatari business person at this point because he clearly had no intention and probably didn't have the means to give this person a $15 million loan. But that's not what he does.
Instead, Juma picks up the phone and contacts Hushpuppi.
While Juma is still running his scam over in Kenya, Hushpuppi is still doing his thing in Dubai.
And by now his thing involved several supercars, including a new black badge Rolls-Royce Wraith worth about $400,000, a $150,000 Richard Mille watch, a Ferrari Novitec worth about $350,000, among other purchases.
As he's going on this spending spree and posting about it, his Instagram followership is going off the charts. In 2019 alone, he added 1 million followers, and something else happened in 2019 that will become significant later in 2020.
In September of 2019, Hushpuppi has some sort of an interaction with Alhaji Abba Kyari, the celebrated and decorated Nigerian police detective that we mentioned earlier. According to Agent Innocenti's information, Kyari traveled to the United Arab Emirates sometime in September 2019. We don't know why he went, we don't know if it was personal or business, but he was there.
And Hushpuppi allegedly sent a car and driver to take Kyari around on that trip. We don't know if the two of them, Kyari and Hushpuppi, met. We don't know if they discussed anything.
Whatever happened or didn't happen in Dubai, we know that the two of them, Hushpuppi and Kyari, had each other's phone numbers and they started communicating in September 2019.
Now, before we take you back to Kenya, one more thing happened in 2019 that set the dominoes falling.
Between October 15th and October 17th, co-conspirator 1, Hushpuppi, and some others had stolen over $900,000 through wire fraud from a law firm in New York. Now, on the 17th of October, co-conspirator 1 was on a plane. We don't know where this person was coming from or going to, but they're texting Hushpuppi back and forth about the New York wire fraud to confirm that the money had been transferred successfully.
The plane lands, co-conspirator 1 gets off, and they're immediately arrested at the airport by FBI agents. The agents get access to co-conspirator 1's iPhone, and it's not long before they find out about Hushpuppi.
So by December 2019, Agent Innocenti starts digging into Hushpuppi, and just like the rest of us, when he gets to Hush's Instagram page, he was probably amazed by what he saw. The agent starts building his case. It takes a few months, but he makes the connection between Hushpuppi and the wire fraud involving the New York law firm, as well as a connection to the cyber heist in Malta. But he doesn't file his complaint until June 2020.
Between December 2019 and June 2020, Agent Innocenti had no clue who Abba Kyari was. His prime target at that time was Hushpuppi.
Now, between December 2019 and June 2020, Hushpuppi had no idea that the FBI was looking into him. And the events that happened in those 6 months would create an electronic trail that eventually led to an arrest warrant for Abba Kyari, the highly decorated detective in the Nigeria police force.
Okay, so to recap, co-conspirator 1 was arrested in October 2019, and the FBI got access to their iPhone, and that's when they discovered Hushpuppi and they started to investigate him. Meanwhile, Hushpuppi is in Dubai going about his business. So now let's go back to Kenya.
It's December and Juma had just scammed a Qatari businessperson of over $300,000. Now, the Qatari businessperson unfortunately still believed that Juma could help him get the $15 million loan to build the international school. So on December 7th, Juma picks up the phone and contacts Hushpuppi.
The two men talk and they come up with a scheme where they will convince the Qatari businessperson that the funds had to be routed through a US bank account first, and that Hushpuppi, who will go by the name Mr. Malik, was a bank executive who would help assist with the transfer.
After they agreed on how they would share the proceeds of whatever they steal from the Qatari, Hushpuppi and Juma were in business together. Hushpuppi directs someone in California to open a fake business in the Qatari person's name and then to also open a bank account for that business. The bank account was opened at a Wells Fargo branch in Canoga Park, a city in Los Angeles, California.
Now, after the bank account in the US was opened, the idea was that the $15 million loan would go into that account. At least that's what the Qatari business person was led to believe. So the business person tells Hushpuppi, who is playing the role of Mr. Malik, the bank executive, that the funds should then be transferred to Qatari's account in the UK.
Mr. Malik, the bank executive, tells the Qatari that this just won't do. You can't transfer $15 million to a personal account. It has to be an investor account. But an investor account in the UK would require a minimum deposit of £250,000. So naturally, Juma and Mr. Malik asked the Qatari to send over the equivalent of £250,000 in US dollars, which was about $330,000, so they can open this investor account.
So if you're keeping track, they were opening an investor account in the UK, but they are asking the Qatari business person to send a deposit in US dollars instead of pounds.
By some miracle, and Hushpuppi would probably call it God's grace, the Qatari business person agrees to send the money, But there's a problem.
To receive the money, Hushpuppi needs to have a bank account in the US that will actually accept that amount of money. So he starts looking around for people in the US, other Nigerians, who might be able to let him use the account for a fee. He has no luck with that.
Then he gets an idea. He'll just buy a really expensive watch with some of the money and have the Qatari wire the money directly to the watch seller.
So a watch seller in Florida, and we don't know their name, is minding their business when one day they get a direct message on Instagram from Hushpuppi. The watch seller has no clue what's going on, they just sell watches. Really expensive watches, like the Richard Mille collection.
Hushpuppi reaches out and basically says, "What kind of watch can I buy for $230,000? "Oh look," the watch seller says, "I have an RM1103 for you. Would you like it in new rose gold titanium, full rose, or new full rose?" Sadly, Hushpuppi could only afford the new rose gold titanium for $230,000.
Bank account problem solved. He directs the Qatari business person to split the $330,000 deposit into two. $230,000 would go directly to the watch seller and the remaining would go into his friend's account.
Now at first, the bank did flag the transaction that was meant for the watch seller, and it almost didn't go through. But then, there goes God's grace again, and the transaction goes through.
Hushpuppi then pays someone to board a plane from New York to Dubai in order to hand deliver the watch to him.
It's a $230,000 watch. What do you want him to do? Mail it?
On January 4th, the watch lands in Dubai, and on the 13th, he posts a picture of himself where he made sure we could see it. In his previous post, he was wearing long sleeves, but this was a special day. He wore a t-shirt. In the picture, he's standing casually with his left hand turned towards the camera so that we can get a glimpse. Just a glimpse of the watch. We don't really get treated to a close-up of it until later in March.
Okay, so back to the Qatari business person. They've paid the equivalent of £250,000 to open an investor account in the UK. And there is also a bank account opened in their business name in the US. Everything is in place. They're expecting $15 million to be deposited into the US account and then transferred to the UK account. But there's a problem.
There's no $15 million. And once again, both Juma and Hushpuppi could have just ghosted the Qatari business person at this point. They have already swindled the Qatari of over $650,000. But Juma and Hushpuppi can still smell blood. There's so much more there for them to suck. But they know they have to work a little bit harder for the next hit.
This is when they turned to their tech guy, Vincent Kelly Chibuzo.
In early 2020, when Hushpuppi speaks with Vincent Kelly Chibuzo, who also goes by Kelly, he tells Kelly that they need something to convince the Qatari that the transfer of $15 million has gone through. Maybe an offshore website they can log into and it shows them an account with funds in it.
A few days later, Kelly proposes that they set up an automated telephone number first. The way it would work is, the Qatari would dial the number, they would enter their Wells Fargo accounts and PIN numbers, and then the automated message would give them their account balance.
They set this automated phone number and the whole thing went exactly like they planned. The Qatari believed that there was really $15 million in the Wells account, and they were just so grateful to Juma and Hushpuppi, who is still Mr. Malik at this point.
Now, they had also promised the Qatari that they would have online access to their account, and Chibuzo was the guy in charge of creating that website. But before they could allow the Qatari to access this so-called website to transfer the funds, they needed to extract more money from them. And for that, they needed a storyline, something they can tell the Qatari that would legitimize why they needed more money.
Kelly comes up with a storyline. Charge the Qatari a US non-resident withholding tax. Basically, tell them that they'd have to pay taxes before the money could be released.
So Hushpuppi and Juma go with this idea and they tell the Qatari business person that they would have to pay a tax of $575,000 to get the money. And apparently that's when the Qatari was like, that's just too much money.
As Juma and Hushpuppi are negotiating with the Qatari and trying to figure out how much to extract, Kelly is getting restless. He wants to get paid for the work he has been doing, and Hushpuppi hasn't been paying him. So Kelly decides to contact the Qatari directly and to tell them that the whole thing is a scam. Kelly also tries to get the Qatari to pay him instead so that he could fix everything.
When Hushpuppi and Juma find out what Kelly did, they are furious because now the Qatari is suspecting something, and they're even threatening to fly to the UK to confirm if the money is in fact in the Wells Fargo account.
Somehow they managed to calm things down, and somehow Hushpuppi would say it was God's grace. The Qatari agrees to pay more money, $440,000 in taxes, to transfer the $15 million.
Even though they managed to save the situation, Hushpuppi doesn't forgive Kelly. He's beyond angry. He feels betrayed. And he needs to teach Kelly a lesson. But Kelly is all the way over in Nigeria.
So Hushpuppi calls Abba Kyari, and they have a 5-minute conversation. After the call, Hushpuppi then sends Kelly's phone number to Abba Kyari. The implication is that Kyari asked Hushpuppi to send the number.
According to Agent Innocenti, between the 14th of January and the 16th, Hushpuppi reached out to Kyari several times either through WhatsApp or by calling him directly. In between the calls to Abba Kyari, Hushpuppi sent threatening messages to Kelly. In one message, he tells Kelly that very, very soon he will be punished for what he did.
On the 16th of January, Kyari sends a message saying that they, meaning the police, would pick up Kelly either that day or the next day.
Now, we don't know what was discussed in the phone calls between Hushpuppi and Kyari, but we do know that the two communicated, and by the 20th of January, Kelly was in Abba Kyari's custody. Kelly was in jail. Up until this point, Abba Kyari could still technically explain his action. He could say, and he actually later did come out and say, that Kelly was threatening Hushpuppi's family and that in order to remove the threat, he had Kelly arrested. That version of the story would have worked except for what happens next.
In one of their WhatsApp exchanges, Kyari asks Hushpuppi what Kelly did to him. This is when Hushpuppi sends him a voice note telling Kyari exactly what went down. He tells Kyari that he has a $575,000 job and that Kelly went behind his back to try to divert the job.
And then Kyari does what a lot of us in Nigeria do. He looks the other way. And the Qatari scam continues while Kelly spends a month in jail.
It is generally believed that money exchanged hands somehow between Kyari and Hushpuppi, but the money trail is not so clear at the moment.
We know based on what Agent Innocenti submitted that during their discussions, Hushpuppi asked Kyari for bank account numbers so that he could send money to the team. We know that Kyari sent him account numbers, but we don't know if those particular accounts were credited.
We also know that Hushpuppi sent Kyari screenshots of transactions totaling 8 million naira, but we don't know what they were for.
Kelly was in jail for 1 month before he was finally released. And yes, based on what we reviewed, it is true that Kyari checked first with Hushpuppi before releasing Kelly. Kelly was released on the 25th of February 2020.
While Kelly was in Abba Kyari's jail, Hushpuppi and Juma continue hustling the Qatari businessperson. In the end, the Qatari businessperson paid a total of over $1.1 million before they realized they were being scammed. That Qatari scam ended on March 12, 2020.
After all the court documents were unsealed and the allegations against Abba Kyari came out, he was suspended from the Nigeria Police Force effective July 31, 2021. We are waiting to see if he will be extradited to the US to face charges.
As for Hushpuppi, his sentencing is scheduled for later this year, October 25, 2021.
Now, when Hushpuppi was arrested and brought to Chicago on July 3, 2020, Agent Innocenti was able to get access to his iPhone, and that's when he was able to piece together a lot of the details about Juma, Abba Kyari, and the other co-conspirators.
But there's one detail that we can't seem to connect.
Who is co-conspirator 1? Conspirator 1 is the domino that set in motion the fall of all the other dominoes in this case. So, Who are they?
The Backstory is brought to you by E38 Media Productions. Production copyright 2021 E38 Media Productions. If you enjoyed this episode of The Backstory and want to hear more, subscribe to our 234 Audio YouTube channel. Episodes of this podcast and our other podcasts can also be found on our website, 234audio.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. This episode of The Backstory was produced by Nabilah Usman, Anthonieta Kalunta, John Iwodi, Dominic Tabakaji, and Sam Tabakaji. Executive Producer Rahmat Muhammad. Special thanks to Rabia Hadejia and Malaiwa Gbado Ikaleku. If you are interested in sponsoring this program, reach out to us at 0818-230-1234 or email us at info@234audio.com. I'm Rahmat Muhammad. See you next week.